Welcome back. This is the 2019 Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading Card Game World Championship, and you are just in time for the finals of the All Ages division of the World Championship. We have one last duel to close out this 2018-2019 season, and I'm sure that it's going to be a thriller.
Yeah, it's been a crazy ride so far, and we're going to get to see another former world champion trying to defend their title, Chia Ching Wang versus Kouki Kosaka.
Yeah, we had a lot of action throughout this weekend, a lot of the duels, 3 different tournaments going on at the same time. One, the Dragon Duel, the Duel Links. We already have our world champions for those 2 categories. The first one, Dragon Duel, coming from Taiwan. The second one, Duel Links, coming from Japan. So, what do we have here? For the TCG, it's Kouki Kosaka, he is from Japan, and of course the reigning world champion from Taiwan. That means that regardless of the outcome of this match, either Taiwan or Japan will have 2 world champions today. So that's gonna be definitely insane, and I feel like they're gonna have a very good match. Once more, no surprises. We spoiled it for you a little bit earlier. They're both playing the same deck, both Salaman Great, different approaches. And I was very surprised by the previous match where the defending world champion for Duel Links was defeated swiftly in a 3-0 manner, but I'm very curious to see if this will happen again. We saw the same deck for Wang in the Dragon Duel finals, because he was friends with the actual world champion from Dragon Duel, and now we will see if the same card-by-card deck list will be able to get him there for this TCG. So.
Yeah, this will be really interesting. Kosaka was actually one of the players that when we asked the Japanese commentary teams, like,
Absolutely.
hey, highlight us your best player, they all pointed directly to this guy and said, hey, this is the guy to keep an eye on. And he's going up against the former world champion who's now just climbed all the way through over an arena of fallen champions just to stand on top with these last 2 duelists.
And this field in particular was really tough. There are a lot of former World Championship competitors.
Absolutely, it was. We saw both of these guys already on stream. Of course, they tear through the toughest competition I've seen in years very easily, and their decks are very similar. That's not a surprise. I think, though, that we are getting ready for the show to begin with. So, hold on to your seat. It all comes down to this one final match: who will be crowned world champion?
Let's get down to business.
Hello there, and we're back. Is everybody excited? Fantastic. Well, it is my privilege to introduce to you our final 2 duelists. Our first is Chia Ching Wang.
我叫做汪嘉庆，那今年28岁，是台湾代表。因为从小看到这个卡通啊，就觉得他的怪兽都很帅，然后就跟着朋友一起玩这个游戏，一直玩到现在。在德国的话，食物吃的比较不习惯，那还有就是语言吧，因为跟国外的选手怕会比上次有遇到一些奇怪的纷争，然后可能在语言的沟通上会跟对手沟通不良，主要是以上这两点会让我比较觉得麻烦，需要具有一定的挑战性。比较让我印象深刻的是我在台湾第一次打那个比赛打冠军的时候吧，因为我以前打了很久的比赛，大概打了10几年，都打不太上去，然后所以去年第一次在台湾夺冠会是我印象最深刻的一次，也是我自己想的战术有奏效的一次。平常周末的话，除了打游戏王，那还会可能跟朋友去运动吧，打个球之类的。就不要除了坐着打游戏王之外，身体还是要起来动一动。我今年是比去年带着更大的信心来到这个赛场，因为我比去年花了更多的准备时间、更多的心力来准备这场比赛，所以我很有信心能够拿下这次第2个冠军。
It is also my privilege to introduce our other duelist for the title of the world champion, Kouki Kosaka.
小坂幸輝 日本です。子供の時にそのパック向いて得たワクワクをなんかその今勝負に生かせてるのがなんか思い出としていいかなっていう。やっぱ言葉の壁でちょっと寂しい気持ちになるなっていうのはありましたね。日本の数多くの知り合いがやっぱ代表になってて、それに感化されて自分も今年初めて挑戦して、今ここにいることが一番印象的っていうか、そんな気持ちです。遊戯以外は特にやってなくて、もう遊戯王一筋です。
Well said. Please help me welcome our duelists to the stage.
All right, it's all come down to this. Our players are taking their seats. They'll have their headphones on soon, and they'll be able to get in the zone and prepare for this match.
Yeah, your heart must be going at 1,000 beats a minute right now, right? If you're sitting on that stage, everybody watching, everybody at home, all of your friends and family, this match must mean so much to these guys.
And you're the last match of the day as well. All eyes are on you.
Yeah, it is always stressful to play on the future match area for anyone going to big events like YCSs or even the WCQs. But for this particular event, I think it gets completely out of the way. You have an insane live crowd here watching and supporting you, and I think that's just completely different, because when you're focusing on yourself and you're thinking, okay, I have this 1,000 people watching me home, it's different. But when you just look up and you see all this crowd there, it really gets you. And I'm very curious to see if it will influence their plays. As Wang said, he has the advantage because he already been there and he won last year, so he knows how it feels, and he wants to defend his title badly. Kouki on his other side, though, I'm very curious. I didn't know about him being a close friend to Ryosuke, the champion in 2017, where me and Billy actually were in Tokyo. It means that he has a friend supporting him that he's a world champion, so he definitely want to make him and everyone else proud. He said that his main passion is Yu-Gi-Oh, so I'm pretty sure, and I was impressed by how he's playing. So I think they both have really good chances. They have, I think, among the best deck list we have seen in the entire 28 TCG competitors. So no surprise that they're both here competing for the final title.
And that's a good point about him being friends with Ryosuke Sujimura. Normally, the only way to prepare for the World Championship is going there once, and generally you get beat pretty bad, and then you want to get back again now that you have an idea of what it is. It's like that in a lot of sports. The first time you make the playoffs as a team, you don't know what it's like. The intensity ratchets up, and you might have an early exit but come back stronger next year. But if you're friends with the former world champion, you can get some pointers early on.
Absolutely, you can get some tips, and I think he did, because you can really see the difference between his deck list and what everyone else brought. Since the field is so small and you have only 5 rounds of Swiss, which means that to be crowned world champion, you only need to win 8 matches, or not even all of the 8 matches, of course. His deck list is really unique in the sense that he is maining a lot of cards that you usually see in the side decks, just because he wants to steal those games. It is not an event where you have like 17, 16, 15 rounds where you have to rely more on consistency. Here, you can take more risk. And I feel like for both of these guys, their deck list reflects on that. It's a high risk, high reward kind of choice. It is paying out, and for one of them, it will pay out even more. So
yeah, I feel like you have to take risks in this type of format. When everyone is so strong and so close in their skill levels, you have to have a bigger payoff than they can get in order to stay up and stay in the race with them, honestly.
And part of that is being able to predict the field accurately. You got to take what's going on overseas, what's going on in your home country, what might change as a result of bringing the two together, and try to decide what is going to be played. How do I beat that? If I'm going to play the same deck as I think the majority of the field is playing, then I have to take some of those risks, maybe main deck those side deck cards.
Absolutely, and they both, just as a reminder for everyone watching, playing again Salaman Great, they are aware of it, and they had very good predictions because out of the 28 players in our tournament, 13 of them were actually playing Salaman Great. Almost half of the field was the deck. They really built their own to beat it and to beat the mirror match, and this I think will be the toughest challenge that either of them basically have to come up, because now you're facing someone who has the same mindset and the same deck as you. So there is no more having that much of an edge yet in previous rounds like we saw throughout their previous future matches. So it is definitely going to be the closest one yet.
No surprises left, basically.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have just logged onto the stream overnight, you'd have been researching your possible opponents, you'd have watched their features, you'd have gone back over the games over and over and over again. You were definitely prepared with what's going to happen next.
Absolutely, and just to make everyone aware of what those particular changes between the usual are, they are both maining Mind Control, a card that it was never popular to begin with in Salaman Great especially, and it's there because of the mirror match mainly. They're not siding it, they're both maining it, so both having an advantage, but I do have to admit that if I compare the deck list, the current world champion Wang Ching actually has even more of an advantage, meaning Didi Crow's Phantasme, and it really shaped his deck to beat the mirror match. As a reminder, once more, his friend did it at the Dragon Duel Championship, so I really gotta say that if someone has the edge here, it is Wang, but it is gonna be very close, and there isn't a safe bet, I'd say.
That's one thing that I found really fascinating about Kosaka's list, is that he doesn't have Phantasme on there just at all. That's something that's been kind of a staple of Salaman Great the entire time that it's been a competitive deck.
Yeah, most of our competitors playing this card, I believe, over the weekend as well, to great effect.
Absolutely, and especially in Salaman Great you see it quite often, and his deck is completely different. Basically, for everyone, I think in this TCG side, unfortunately, once more, we do not have a finalist from either, the TCG area, we can say. I feel one of the problems was that we did receive a new TCG Forbidden List that wasn't applied for this event, and a lot of the players from TCG actually thought that combo decks were still very good because of the limitation not applying. Kouki, for example, realized that that was not the case, and he's not maining that many entrops. That's a great decision, because if you play against the mirror match of Salaman Great, you don't want to be stuck with all these entrops that don't really advance your plan. And he caught even the Phantasme, which I gotta say it's so brave on his side, but it's working out for him. He only lost one match throughout the entire event right now, and he has, I think, very good chances to even take this. So
yeah, it's interesting you bring up combo, that it didn't do very well in this particular
absolutely.
tournament. Out of the top 8, I believe only one of them.
Yeah, I mean, the Dakota Angel of the North American champion made it all the way to top 4, but he was the only player who was nicked in 8th place with an X2 record, so he wasn't like guaranteed to make it. So that really shows you how it seems like it was more of a fragile choice. And in the end, you gotta give credits to the OCG players. So even though we're playing in Europe this time, they still proved that they are the best for this year. So
I do wonder, like when you compare to last year, like the differences is you had the OCG almost felt like it was at a disadvantage because the format was so different on their side with missing cards like Crucial Needle Fiber. And then the TCG players did really well last year. Ultimately, Chai actually did win the World Championship.
Yep.
But this year, we're looking at like the TCG sides missing all of the danger monsters and all the stuff they've gotten used to for competitive play. And not all of those cards are not legal for this event. So I'm wondering like how much that sort of had an impact on them.
I do think they did a good job of trying to substitute for them, but it wasn't enough.
yeah, and to be honest, I think they did have a very good show. We had, I think, 5 TCG players in the top 8. Yes. So unfortunately, all of the Europeans lost immediately, and then we had 2. So one from Panama, of course, and one from the USA in the top 4, which means they still had a good show. It is just that they didn't get to the finals, which does matter, but our players, I believe, rolled their dice, which is going to be relevant in this matchup. And if they're ready, I would just say, let's go. This is the last match, everyone watching. This comes down to this. Who will be the TCG World Champion for 2019?
Already wiping the sweat from his brow.
Those lights are pretty hot, and there's no time limit, so you're in that chair till the game is done.
Take one last deep breath.
Yes, and there you just go. You can see how focused they are.
This is it. We have now come to the final duel of the day, where we will crown the ultimate duelist for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading Card Game World Championship 2019, held here in Berlin, Germany. Yes. Good luck, duelists. And as always, trust in the heart of the cards. It's time to duel!
Unfortunately, Zen is mostly relying on those go second cards that we were mentioning, both mind control going first and not what you want to see. So this part of this art will be the deciding factor for this game. He really needs to pick up some of the engine cards, and luckily for him, Chai did not open a single entrop. So
Let's see where Kosaka's going. It's off these top two cards. Take a breath, take a look.
and there is a sign in mining there, so that's definitely what he wanted to see. Now the next step is slowly check those 10 banished cards for a Gazelle. And it's the first card, wow!
Oh, it's so dangerous running Cloud of Desires when you only have one copy of your key card.
They are both playing Desires throughout the previous future matches. He's never really let them down. Now it did, and this is gonna hurt a lot. Gazelle, just as a reminder, is at 1 for this event, so he's completely cut off from that, which is...
Wow, that's brutal.
Brutal,
That's brutal to be
absolutely.
starting off the finals just like that.
It's tough. I guess you have to start leaning in on maybe on Jack Jaguar.
Yeah, it's...
Something to just keep getting monsters on the field. It's not an easy one, though.
It seems like he's passed. Yeah, I was about to say is...
One good thing, though, is that he only needs one monster because he can use his opponents.
Yeah, with
Exactly.
the double mind control there.
And the really cool interaction in the mirror match is Ita. So if your opponent, or you can prevent your opponent from getting back the Gazelle with the Wolf, then you can steal their own Gazelle and use it as your own. So that's still an option for Kouki. And I think he's gonna really rely on that because his hand is not looking anywhere good at the moment if Chai doesn't overextend here. So
Would you say with these two pieces of interaction that Kouki is pretty safe from being OTK'd here?
should be, but it really depends on what Chai has. And at the moment, I think his hand also relies a lot on the pot of desire. So they overall have very similar hands. But it is quite different. So at least he will be able to fin through his deck. And something that we have seen previously from Chai was playing around the Phantasme from their opponents when they didn't really have much going on. So let's see. Again, one Desires, who is going to have the better Desires? It really might just come down to this for this game one.
Another cool thing with Will of the Salamander right there, summoning from hand.
Let's see, this draws us super important.
Do we see the double the Gazelle taken out of the game?
Unfortunately, we are not able to see those cards,
Just
but
tilt those cards slightly further forward?
yeah.
Never mind.
Would have been interesting to see them, but the draws are pretty solid, so Foxy and Spinny both being useful in this spot.
Besides, a little mystery is good for the soul. Yu-Gi-Oh! is kind of built on it, really, with trap cards, face downs, that sort of thing.
Ever since day one.
Okay, and he just attacks with both. Again, it's quite possible that he will just hand here, maybe on Abyss Dweller, which is an even better way to play around the Phantasme. Let's see what he thinks is the optimal choice here.
It's just a tough set of cards.
He does just pass, so as he did in... Oh, and a third mind control is picked up.
Wow.
Well, those are definitely getting played this turn.
Yeah, now he has a chance, of course.
Might be nice to take those two monsters and keep them stuck under an Xyz monster of your own.
It's definitely interesting. He has quite a few options. The Twin Twister isn't that great in this matchup. Luckily for him, since Chai was playing around Bale Links, there isn't any protection at the moment. And the Silent Money comes down. Right now, the only interaction from Chai is the Diddy Crow. Again, very relevant that he decided to main deck Freepo. I think he is the only one in the entire field that decided to go for this, and it is paying out greatly. So
he's got his hand on the Jack Jaguar there. Is that or Foxy? Running some numbers in his head.
yeah, because at the moment he's quite short of another level 3, since Chia didn't really commit to it, so even the Ita wouldn't get him there. So maybe he could go for a Foxy and try to get a Spinny or something else to get going.
He's got to have a high concentration of Salamangreat cards left in his deck at this point, because he hasn't seen any so far. Mind Control number 1 is activated, taking Chia's Jack Jaguar.
So from here, it also depends if he might have banished the Sanctuary as well, honestly. That would hurt even more. So
Man, hitting 2 1-ofs with 1 Desires. Not
Well,
good odds on that.
That's a risky run when you're running very slim one-offs with Pot of Desires in your deck.
Takes control of both of the Salamangreat monsters.
Mind Control, a great card in last year's finals as well.
It was.
And I think we can safely assume that both of these guys might have watched it, and in particular, Chia was playing it, might have picked up on Bowden idea to run Mind Controls. So
Interesting. So summons Foxy, no effect.
and just attacks with it, yeah.
Main phase 2.
It is possible that he just wants to use it to clear the will. In that case, it is much better to use it that way. Because he knows his opponent also doesn't have too much going on at the moment, so it is... And luckily the Sanctuary wasn't banished. It would have been really too rough if he lost 2 of his best cards.
So that is...
Yeah, Foxy come down, but the Diddy Crow here is gonna hurt, so...
Gets tagged.
If it was any other Entrap here, you can see the difference. Since Foxy activates in the graveyard, but the effect to destroy a spell and trap doesn't activate in a new chain, you cannot negate it with like Effect Veiler or Impermanence.
Right.
And usually you see those Entraps. Here, for example, if Chia had that, he couldn't negate the Foxy, but the Diddy Crow paying off.
He is going to get to keep those Salamangreats out of Chia's graveyard, though, as he Xyz summons Baguska, the
Yes.
terribly tired taker.
Billy's favorite number, as he mentioned on stream previously, number 41. So
Just take a rest, take a timeout.
Baguska has kind of the debilitating effect while it's in defense mode, switching things to defense and negating their effects. Link monsters, of course, can't be in defense position as they have no defense points. And so
Okay.
they're safe.
So now a Cosmic Cyclone is picked up, and you can see one of the differences between his deck and the other ones. He is maining the Fusion of Fire, which is quite an impactful tool in the mirror match. And at the moment, though, since you don't usually see the number 41 on the field, it's not going to be as good as usual, because it would prevent the Violet Chimera and it would put it in defense position. So
Yeah, that's a card that's been cut from a lot of extra decks, at least in North America. So always a little surprised by it.
definitely, I think it depends heavily on the if you're running multiple targets, for example, for Super Polymerization, that takes away a slot because of Starving Venom usually, so you're less inclined to play it because Abyss Dweller is usually considered the better one, but he's playing both, so he thought the card was relevant enough in the mirror match and in other matchups as well.
Just taking some time in the tank to think this play through.
Sets a monster face down.
Okay.
Not something you really see in Salamangreat, and it's generally a sign that things have not gone to plan.
Absolutely. The thing is, number 41 is actually very annoying to deal with because Right now you can see his only very good play would have been a Stalio, but Stalio of course would have been negated. So, and finally an engine card is picked up by Kouki. He gets the circle. Just as a reminder, if anyone just tuned in, there is no Gazelle for Kouki. It was banished by the SARS, so he has to try and play and navigate this game differently. So.
Now the downside to Baguska is that you can't always, press your advantage in this case. So Chia kind of has a weaker setup here with just a face-down monster, and maybe it really is a weaker position, or maybe he's just trying to get that Baguska switch to attack position so that its effect stops.
I think there, a material also has to be detached, which means that he will get back one of his Salamangreat monster. But
on the standby phase.
Yeah. Which I think it is what the judges are catching up on right now. So he gives back the Jaguar to his opponent, but he's able to use even the third mind control right now. This is wild, yeah.
So he knows what that face-down monster is. Looks like it is a Falco.
It should be Spinny, maybe? I think it was the Spinny side, yeah. So the Spinny is there. It's flipped, not in defense position, of course, but we are skipping the number 41, putting it into defense. So it will be interesting to see how he goes for this. So he might want to push some damage, and the Ita is a possibility, which I think we could see soon. Because you can also switch the number 41 to attack position, of course, to push some damage. So that's what he's going for. Because now if you get back the Jaguar from the graveyard and you normal summon your own copy of Jaguar, then this is a lot of damage and it would be enough to actually win the game. So I think Kouki is in a really good spot to take this first duel. So he is still in the line, so...
Double Jack Jaguar with Hita and Baguska.
19. This is more than enough. It's
36 plus 50, 54, 50.
74, yeah, 100 pretty much. So it should be enough. Let's see if... yeah, they do realize it. So Kouki wins game one. Nice applause from the crowd. And...
does it without the Gazelle as well.
And without really getting a whole lot of Salamangreat cards.
Really, if you had any doubts about the favorite for our colleagues and Japanese friends, now you don't doubt him. Like he managed to activate a Desire, banish his only copy of Gazelle, and still found a way to win, drawing triple mind control going first. So it is not something you see every day, and very, very well played by him.
That was a clunky hand that he turned into some real action there. That was great play by Kosaka.
Yes.
That's part of why you have to practice a lot. Is you have to get those cards and not just be like, yeah, no, I can't do anything. You have to figure out what you can do, not even if it's not what you want to do.
Absolutely. And now we're going to go to the side decks where things do get a little different. So both, as we were saying, we're maining a lot of cards already for the mirror match, but they do add a few. What was the most interesting for me, especially in Ching deck, is that his main deck is very focused on multiple copies of cards. His side deck, almost all of one-offs, which is something you don't see every day. Billy agreed with me earlier on that it is something that he likes, just to see different copies of cards. But for example, he decided to only play one Super Polymerization when that card is very impactful in this matchup. So maybe that decision will go back to him. So
I guess he already has one Fusion of Fire, which is kind of like a second copy for the
absolutely,
mirror match.
Yeah.
A lot of times for the one-offs, one reason you might do it is if you have 6 different cards that can interact with something, but they all have you can only use this effect once per turn written on them. So you might need a bunch of similar effects, because if you drew multiple copies of a single card, you wouldn't be able to play them both in one turn. But if you draw out 2 copies of 2 different cards, like say an Ash Blossom and a Ghost Ogre, you could use them both, and it improves your overall hand quality.
It's interesting. If you have this situation where you have lots of one-offs in your side deck, would you leave the Pot of Desires in, or do you start thinking about taking it out?
I mean, I think you take into consideration the fact that you have Pot of Desires when you build the side deck. So since they're not engine cards, you're not really afraid to banish the one-offs. It is probably just similar to what Jerome was saying. If you play multiple copies of the same card with restrictions and you have draw effects, you're more likely to draw multiples, and then they are not that good. When you have all these one-offs, you can actually use it very safely and get the best of both worlds, we can say. And that's what's going to happen. He's probably putting in his Imperial Order, Super Polymerization, and Ghost Bell, which are all one-offs he has in his side decks for different purposes. So,
if you're watching at home, one thing to think about when you're using Pot of Desires is you got to think about whether you're trying to draw one specific card or one card out of a group of cards. If it's a group of cards, then you can almost treat all of them as whatever single card you're looking for. And that alters the math and makes it safer to run a card like Pot of Desires.
Yeah, otherwise you end up going the safer route of just play free of everything.
That's sometimes a possibility. In this case, of course, they have to respect the restrictions. And in this deck, it is more of a fact of there are that many engine cards, you cannot really go above it. So if you already have your combos going on, you keep the Desires, you thin your deck for the Gazelle and the Sanctuary, and then you opt to draw traps or end traps with it. Otherwise, if you did not have engine cards, then it would have been any other cards. Why not risk it and just try and get into your combos? And it is working out because both of them are playing Desires right now.
Strong card from release.
Just getting the last minute shuffle before we jump into Game 2 of this best of 3 for the Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championships 2019.
There is also a world in which Ching actually picks a second to caught his opponent off guard, but it would need to be very brave to do so, and it is something that I do like because first of all they don't expect it, and they side cards that are gonna be useless going first. So let's see if he decides to go for that line.
Much more balanced hand on Kosaka's side this time around.
He does have the Gazelle, so no more risks of getting that away.
Now it's safe to play the Desires.
Absolutely. And he really is good at drawing his mind controls. He has 2 more copies this game, so 5 mind controls just in basically 10 or 15 minutes is, you gotta feel sick if you're Ching. So
this time, though, if you're going second, it might be a little better than last time.
absolutely. So very good hand on both sides, I gotta admit. So it seems like he is starting. So.
Thinking very carefully about what's his normal summon going to be.
Yeah, he has a few options. The thing is, when you have Foxy like this, you always wonder, should I use the effect? And I think in his case, it might be the correct decision just because to have less downside with the Desires, he is actually maining multiple copies of all of the Salamangreat Traps cards, which makes the Foxy significantly more consistent. Let's see.
There it is. There's Foxy. Asking, are you going to activate that?
Yeah. He doesn't activate it. It is not surprising because it allows you. The only concern I had is that if you have the will, you do not need this. But if you do not have another extender, then you don't want to use the effect just because you're going to use the one in graveyard once you get to the Sanctuary. So,
Link summons for Salamangreat Bailings. Link materials for that are just 1 level 4 lower Cyberse monster. So a vast majority of the Salamangreats work with it. Or other Cyberse monsters like Lady Debug.
Yeah, very, very good card. A perfect opener.
so now, as we were saying, he's probably just going to activate either the Sanctuary on the will, enabling the Foxy to discard either Falco or Spinny and just start playing it out. Unfortunately, there is an impermanence in Kouki's hand, which will most likely be used on the Stalio when it tries to get the Gazelle out of the deck. So,
Will of Salamangreat is activated. Gives you that extra summon once per turn, or you can cash it in for a bunch of summons all at once if you have a reincarnated Link monster. Discard Spinny to pull back Foxy from the graveyard.
And Spinny comes back up. And quick Exy summon.
and just as expected, the Stalio comes down, and I would be very surprised if the impermanence wasn't used here. So definitely thinking about it, and
Thinking about what to do as Chain Link 2 here. Mirage Stalio lets you summon a Salamangreat from your deck in defense position. Also has an ability when it's sent to the graveyard as material for a Salamangreat.
Just as expected, the impermanence come down. It means that Ching will not really be able to extend his plays that much this turn, so he's cut off from Gazelle, and that means it is almost impossible for him to get to an Abyss Dweller or to the Roar, for example. Luckily, he does have the Rage, which is more, as we were saying, due to the fact that he is playing a lot of traps, even Solemn Strike, which is something that we have not seen in a lot of these decks.
I kind of like the heavier traps with like the Solemns, more Rage,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. A lot of times I feel like Salamangreat really is more of a controlling deck than an aggressive deck.
It
But,
is.
you know, what it really is something that switches almost seamlessly between the two. It's part of why its longevity is so great.
Yeah, you can definitely switch, and if you build a deck is where you have a lot of traps, but you do put the one copy of Fusion of Fire, you're basically building a very good control deck, but a deck that really punishes you, because every time you don't have the correct interaction, then it can easily OTK you. So it is a very good deck, and no surprise that it was essentially the most represented decks for all of the past months ever since it was released. So
In North America, at least, it was about 25% of the field at all the major events.
yeah.
Next closest deck was only around 12.
And here we go for the reincarnation Sunlight Wolf.
Mandatory here because of course he needs it for the Rage in his hand, and he's gonna use the second effect of the Will, which is the rarest one, I'd say. You usually first turn at least use the other one, but it can tribute itself to check the link rating of a Salamangreat you control, and you can special summon in defense position monsters up to the rating. But here it makes sense because, as you're seeing, it didn't have another Salamangreat spell and trap in the graveyard, so by doing this, he puts more monsters on the field, and he gets the Will back. So pretty good opening here, even through the impermanence.
It basically cost you nothing in that case. Got rid of the Will, got the Will back.
Absolutely. So a Foxy is picked up. It's a good start, honestly. His hand is looking quite good, and the only card he has to play around is really the Rage. That's sad. And the Mind Control is a very good starting point to do that.
Checks, take a look in there. There is a Balinx that can be banished to protect Salamangreat monsters, or cards rather, from being destroyed. That Salamangreat Rage down there does present a bit of a problem.
How will Kosaka navigate this turn?
There are a few options. One of the main differences is that, unfortunately, he's not siding or remaining the Fusion of Fire, because I'm pretty sure if he was, there was actually a very good chance he could have pushed an upper game even with this combination of cards. Here, as expected, he's just testing the water. He doesn't know about the Rage, so he's using it to see if maybe it could have been a Roar, and then you're gonna force it there. The Rage, luckily for Ching, has a second effect, so it is not completely useless at the moment, but he will be forced to tribute Salamangreat from hand or field to destroy just one card, though. So
Kosaka summons Foxy, does not activate its effect. And we'll see if Chia goes ahead and uses the Rage here to stop a Link summon. Nope. Lets it go through, and Balinx hits the field.
yeah, it would have been too risky, and unfortunately, not having Anthrops at his disposal means that he's just gonna pray that his opponent hand isn't that great, but it is much better than the previous game one. So if the previous game was enough to win, then this could just be even better. So let's see what Ching is gonna try and stay alive.
He's hovering that Rage. There it is.
Okay.
There it is.
He does go for it,
Keeps his monsters on field, sends one from his hand.
and he destroys his own Sunlight Wolf. The reason being, once the Balinx hits the field, he knows that as soon as that would have been used for Link Summon, the Rage was completely useless, so he was kind of forced to use it there.
And now or never kind of situation, right?
Absolutely. So now Kouki is still in a perfect spot because he has the Silent Mining, which is just the cherry on top, I would say, of this end.
And he knows that the only card in his opponent's hand is The not
The
the
will.
Sanctuary, the will.
Yes, because now he decided to use the one from the end, which is also interesting because I do get it. He gets the extra value of setting back the rage, as we were saying, but at the same time, you're giving your opponent free information, and if they now know that there are no more interaction, you're just free to do whatever you want. So maybe I would have liked him to use a Spinny or a Foxy for it and just play mind games with
And you
Kouki.
can see the mental math right there.
Absolutely.
He's trying to figure out what's the biggest number I can hang on him.
It could be a pretty good number, and even if it wasn't, he can go for the Abyss Dweller after clearing the field, and we do know how good Salomon Grid is just recycling their resources, but if they're cut off from the graveyard, not so much, because they're not famous for having a lot of cards in their hand.
They get hosed pretty hard by that Abyss Dweller. So
Absolutely.
let's see how Kosaka decides to push his hand onto the table this turn.
Bistro is a real MVP this entire season against multiple decks even. Orchist, for example, had a real bad time.
Yes.
This
and-
Dweller has been good since it's been printed. Like, it's just pretty much always been in the back of people's minds.
Yes, it was defining during Mermill format, and still probably one of the best XYZs at the moment. So.
All right, Foxy comes back from the graveyard and uses its ability to take out Sanctuary, and that's a one of. So you're not getting another one of those unless you use an ability to bring it back.
Which is never what you want to do,
Yep.
really, with such a card. Yeah. So just as expected, now he can go for the Stalio. He should be getting a level 4 out of it. So since, yeah,
Got
nothing
Jack
too
Jaguar.
surprising here.
Now, Spinny making a reappearance?
I'm gonna consider his plays quite a lot. I don't think he has enough at this point to just attack for game. It doesn't seem likely since there is a Bane Links as well to protect it.
Yes.
But it does have a lot of resources, so he has the ability to go for It Leo and just get rid of the card. He can do a lot, so... Okay, he's thinking about this Falco. He could have also just bounced back the Gazelle for next turn, so... A lot of different options, and I'm sure he will find out the perfect outcome. Thankfully, just as a reminder, there is no time limit for this final. Of course, you still have to play at a reasonable pace, but at least you're not as stressed by
End
having
of match
to...
procedure and having to calculate how you're going to navigate
Yes.
those last few turns.
So, the Ita comes down, okay. So he decides to pull the trigger, and
Checks the graveyard, sees Sunlight Wolves. And he's asking about the face down card there. Probably, how was that card set? Was it set by an effect, etc.?
yeah, he still has potentially the ability to go, I don't know, for It Leo. The order is slightly concerning, but it shouldn't make a word of a difference. Like, if he goes for It Leo and Dweller, potentially getting even the Roar face down, then it's a lot, so...
Takes Sunlight Wolf.
Seems like he's considering entering the battle phase, but...
Even
Jack
more
Jag-
math
yeah.
going on there.
he still has a lot. He still has both Falco and Jack Jaguar available in the graveyard, so... Doesn't seem like this... Okay, he does enter the battle phase.
That's
And just
Foxy.
gonna try and force out the Bailings, yeah.
Spinny. And I don't know that he necessarily needs to use the Bailings here. He's still got plenty of life
Yeah.
points.
It is fair enough. He does know that the Roar is there, so it still plays around a few cards like Ghost Ogre and Rage, so I wouldn't hate if he just kept, and that's what he's doing, yeah, makes sense.
He gets 1850 and 2000 in there.
But now, I mean, a very convincing line of play from Kouki. He still has the Memphis Shoe to keep pushing and clearing everything Ching has, and he knows he has the full information at the moment of what's in his hand and face down, which gotta be a great feeling, honestly.
Yeah, what sort of top decks are you going to be looking for if you're Chia right now?
Probably the one super polymerization, really. I think it is among the best ones, but it is not even, might not just be enough regardless, because as you can see, he's getting back to Gazelle for next turn, and he's most likely gonna go for an Abyss Dweller later on, so that means that even if you do clear a significant portion of the board, then you have to deal with a lot, so.
Like summons another Sunlight Wolf there.
Yeah.
And gets back a Roar of his own.
Very cool play here, since he took his opponent's Sunlight Wolf there with Ita. He saves the Reincarnation aspect and just makes a Sunlight Wolf. That way he's considered still a summon with another one. So nice line of play, and we will see an Abyss Dweller soon.
We got Jack Jaguar up next.
And he gets back the Ita, yeah.
Ita, okay.
Like when you are able to get back Aida, you feel good. Like it means that you're so ahead that it gotta be very nice. And as expected, Leo and Abyss Dweller, you just wanna be sure you get back the Rage into the deck. And here, the really good thing about this play is that super polymerization is not even an option anymore. He played around it by just linking away and then XY and summoning an XYZ. So
getting that Salamandra monster off the field.
yes, so tough spot, honestly. Kouki playing very well and at his best. Can Ching still draw into something? It seems like very difficult here for him.
Salamandra Raccoon, huh?
Okay, Raccoon is the one you don't see often. It allows you to protect your Salamangreats from battle, but it is not what you want to see it right now. Is he gonna negate the will here? It's really coming down to the wire. You should really hold to your seat, because this is the last place you're gonna see for this year World Championship.
Takes one more look through there.
Pass turn, and this is just a formality. You can see him shaking his head. Kouki is just a few attacks away from becoming the 2019 World Champion for the TCG.
Come on, Kouki.
No effect.
No effect.
Just getting
He
everything
lines
on
it
board.
up.
He
One
goes
hit,
for
two hit,
attacks.
3 hit, 4
And
hit, and World
shake.
Champion has been declared. Kosaka is the new World Champion.
Japan takes 2 World Champions this year. They won the Duel Links, they won here again. Wow.
Back with a vengeance after last year not having a finalist for Japan, and now they're taking 2 tournaments down. That's
You
crazy.
can never underestimate Japan, and they just proved it once more why they have the most World Championship wins of all time, and one more champion for them. Amazing.
Our world champion, Kouki Kosaka from Japan. Well done. Congratulations. How are you feeling?
めちゃめちゃ嬉しいですありがとうございます
I feel great. Thank you so much.
Congratulations, everybody. A big round of applause.